Hey guys, it's George the Fragrance Apprentice here. Please don't be frightened of the length of this video. I'm trying out something new and I want to explain my reasoning for doing a video like this first, and then you can decide whether you're game for it. But if not, that's okay. If you want shorter fragrance content, totally understand, no judgment from me. But yeah, so I think that we all get the vibe that top 10 fragrance lists are boring, they're repetitive, they're uninteresting, and I think that one of the reasons being is that fragrance reviewers kind of feel nervous and pressured that you're going to turn off at any given moment, and so they speed through it. They really get through it. They really get through it, and they read stuff on Fragrantica, and it's a very straightforward, simple, to the point thing, because that's what we feel we have to do to keep your attention, because there's a lot of other things that you could be looking on the internet or on TV or go to the cinema or whatever, and so we value your time, which is the right thing to do. But ironically, YouTube values longer watch time, which is an interesting twist to this story. But also, if you speed through something and you speed through fragrances and you genuinely want the information, then you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff. And I think the final straw for me was Jeremy's slew of top 10 men's fragrances or top 10 fragrances for men being 2 minutes long. He only says the titles. He doesn't really put any effort into anything. His sound, his lighting, his delivery, his videos are very, they have no value. They have little to no value now, which is a real shame. And so even in my last top 10 video, the old money fragrances top 10 list, which was great, I felt as though I was rushing. I felt as though I was just struggling to get through everything and not being able to just say what I actually feel and deliver things in the way that I actually want to deliver them. And so that brought me to this idea of, why don't you make an actual top 10 best men's fragrances or whatever it is, and you have no time limit. You have no time limit of how you talk about these fragrances, what you want to talk about these fragrances. And that felt like a revelation in my mind. And this video is going to be one of the more chill videos you see from me, because I'm not having to manically go through things very quickly so that you don't switch off. It's a video style that I think I'm going to be really comfortable with. This is a test. If you like it and YouTube analytics tells me that you liked it, then I'll probably continue to do it. You may treat this, of course, as a podcast if that's what you want to do. If you want to put this on whilst you're cooking or doing something else, that's fine. I will be putting visuals over this, to match the fragrances and to match my descriptions. But it's fine. You can go off and do something else if that's what you want to do. But in this video, it's a designer list. It will go from lighter designers all the way to middle of the road, autumn, spring designers, all the way to winter, hardcore, like dark designers. I will openly say that many of these fragrances I've already talked about before, but you've never seen me talk about them in this way. You've never seen me be able to essentially have freedom to be able to talk about these fragrances in the way that I am, and a large part of that is because I trust you. I really feel as though you get it, you get what I do, and you get the type of content that I want to make, and you get that I'm passionate about this, and you get that I love talking about this. So let's give this a go. First fragrance on the list is Bvlgari's Man Wood Neroli. So I actually have the time here to actually spray it and smell it, which is very nice. It's not just from memory. So Neroli has been used in fragrance since essentially the beginning of the industry. It's a much older note. It's a decadent note. It's a note that is very stylish, and it really peaked in the 40s, the 50s, and to a degree the 60s, actually, even probably more so the 60s. But because of that, it has gone out of fashion, especially in the past 20 years. In the 90s, Neroli was still appreciated. It was still in the loop. It was still in the fragrant zeitgeist of the world. But when the 2000s hit, that is when it started to decline in popularity. I have no doubt that it will return and it will come back. It seems to be a timeless note. It seems to be a note that will never sort of have a sell-by date, but it really is not in fashion at the moment. For those of you who are wondering, Neroli to me is the John Wick of citruses. It's the John Wick in the citrus family. It's a cold, calculated smell, but yet it has this warmth to it that's underlying. Similar to John Wick, he's a cold killer. He will, murder countless people or countless whatever, but he also loves his dog. And that's what Neroli is to me. It is the cold, calculated killer of the citrus world. Another thing that has dated Neroli is the fact that it, a synthetic version of it is found a lot in cleaning products, in washing tablets and liquids, soapy liquids and all that kind of thing. So it's become dated by that as well. And so whenever there's a new Neroli fragrance in town, I'm always intrigued to see what the company's going to do. And Bvlgari really tried their best, I think, with not exactly reinventing the wheel, but creating something that was going to work for modern audiences, that was going to be pleasant for most people, stylish, was going to work. And, in Italy, I'm sure that this did very well because in Italy, Neroli has not died at all. It is still, the cleaner a man, the sexier man, and this is going to work with that ideology completely. But for, the Brits, for the French, and especially for the United States, I can imagine that this didn't fly too well. This didn't work as well. Now, if you're a man who enjoys really straightforward and clean and simple and to the point fragrances, then this is absolutely going to work for you. But Neroli is also or has been a dime a dozen in the fragrance world. So Neroli Portofino probably should go down as one of the most outrageously absurd price tags in the whole of perfumery, because what is Neroli Portofino these days? I mean, even back in the day when it was first released, it was not insulting, but it was cheeky. It was completely and utterly cheeky, and it did work on the naivety of people who didn't understand that fragrances like Neroli Portofino, they're everywhere. I mean, they're everywhere, and especially in I smelt one just the other day, GOF Trump or whatever. They have one. It's like a barbershop company in London, and they have a small selection of fragrances, and I can't remember which one of theirs smells like Neroli Portofino. But again, it's not a Neroli Portofino clone. Neroli Portofino is basically the culmination. It's the assorted works of Neroli. It's a brief history of Neroli fragrances. There were fragrances, 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 years ago that smelled like Neroli Portofino. Case in point, Colonia by Acqua di Parma. So Neroli is a dime a dozen. It's everywhere. So what can you really do with it? And the problem with Neroli is it doesn't really mix well with others. You can't do too much to it. You can't add too much to it because it's so beautiful on its own. And so what they did here was they tried to add a bit of sweetness, a bit of like this icing sugar thing that was very popular in the 2000s, that was really prevalent with fragrances like Invictus. Had this icing, sugary, thick layer that was in a lot of things. And they've tried to slant that in with a very juicy and wonderful Neroli. As it dries down, it becomes grassier. I'm not saying thank you in Italy, I mean grass, Becomes definitely greener, a little bit more and simple. That's what they wanted with this, I think. They wanted to just keep things as simple as possible. And it worked. But I know that for some people, this is going to be... I could see how this could irritate a few people, because it's either too simple or the sugary sweetness is just going to get in some people's way. And they're going to be like, you've got such a great smell here, you've got such a great Neroli note, why are you bastardizing it with sweetness? Why are you bastardizing it with modern designer tropes, I would have loved to have seen the face of the person who suggested that Bvlgari do a Neroli fragrance, because, I could have just imagined, the boardroom just talking about it and saying, oh, why don't we do a Neroli fragrance? And like half the table's like, oh my god, we can't do a Neroli fragrance. It's an older note. It is a traditional note, but it nobody's buying Neroli anymore. And the other half of the table going, you know what? I think we could try and do that, and we could pull that off. And Neroli's still in, baby. Neroli's still such a prominent thing, which it is. It's in a weird kind of purgatory in a way, because Neroli will never not be popular, because it's, people know what they're getting for people who know what it smells like. But in the same vein, it's become a niche now, rather than Sauvage doesn't have any Neroli in it. You know what I mean? But I think it's great, and I've always enjoyed it, and it's kind of like an almost unnecessary reboot of an old franchise. That's what Bvlgari Man Neroli Wood is. It's like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man films, the Amazing Spider-Man films. Were they necessary? No, not really. Were they treading over ground that was already trodden and didn't really need to be retread? Yeah. But was it all right? It was all right. It's fine. And that's kind of like what Bvlgari Man Wood Neroli is. But if you're somebody who does want really clean-cut fragrances that are, high in citruses, to the point, straightforward, simple, it's always worth a try. We have talked about this many a time. This is Prada Rossa Carbon. I think the lady's name, Daniela, I think her name is, Daniela Roche, is the perfumier, the in-house perfumier of Prada. I would love to talk to her, you know what I mean? I'd love to meet her. I would love to have a nice cup of peppermint tea at her house, because I would love to see, like, how her house is organised. I could imagine that it is absolutely fastidious. I could imagine that everything is just so beautifully well organised. Everything's clean. Everything's tidy. Because her fragrances are always just so well organised and so clean and so thought of, well thought of, and they almost have a calming effect on me because of just how in control it feels that she is as a perfumier. Now this is, quite obviously a take on Sauvage. And I know it's the biggest, bestest, most popular fragrance in the entire universe. I understand all that, but it just didn't work for me. I think that I was spoiled, heavily by that point. I think that if I'd smelt Sauvage without the fragrance journey on top of it, I would have probably enjoyed it. And case in point, when I walk round and I smell Sauvage, I go, I like that. I like that in the air. I like that, wafting around. But on my skin, it just wasn't my thing. And it smelled dirty. It smelled steel, metallic. It just bothered me. And, I get why they did it now, but I was disappointed with Christian Dior. I was, because they were the usual innovators of the whole fragrance thing, but it didn't feel like innovation. It felt like a step backward. For me, it felt boring. Plainly, it just felt boring and felt. I was very unenthused by Sauvage. But like I said, when it was in the air, I liked it. So when I smelt Rossa Carbon, I was like, that's it. That's what I want. There's more to it. It's this Sauvage, but it's like Sauvage is this crazy, insecure jock character, who's trying to impress everyone all the time, and big and beefy and life of the party and drinks too much and takes drugs and all that kind of stuff. And then Daniela, invited her into a house and said, just spend the month with me. We'll get you cleaned up. You can do some meditation, do some yoga. I've got these beautiful organic soaps, and you can wash yourself. And I've got this big, beautiful, bath, and you can just take as much time as you need and drink lots of water and hydrate yourself and bring yourself down. And Daniela, helps him find a job. And, maybe Sauvage works around the house for her, does some chores, and she gives him some money, and so they can buy himself a nice suit. And after a month, it's still the same person, underneath, but it's a more refined and more confident and calmer and more relaxed and cleaner version. And that's what Rossa Carbon is. It's Sauvage that took a mental and physical wellness retreat in this nice lady's house. And it'll still do the basics. It'll still get a couple of compliments, and it'll get a few nice looks, and people will still say, "Oh, this is good," and you'll get all that. But to me, you'll get a more sophisticated and more refined and cleaner experience. I'll tell you what I thought Sauvage was probably going to be, but it wasn't. But this is fantastic. This is Narciso Rodriguez for him, Bleu Noir, Parfum. This is ecstasy to me. This is a magical adventure. It's fantastic. Just fantastic. Just, the projection longevity could be better. It isn't quite there. But actually, I'll wear this one today, I think. Yeah. So People say, don't rub. Don't rub. You can pat, though. Don't tell them you can't pat. Don't let them tell you can't pat. You can pat, it's fine. I mean, what? It's going to do nothing. That, like a washing machine, yeah, alright, fine. But it's fine. I love me some Iris. I do. I do love me some Iris, but there's... Oh, it's just great. It's just great. It's just... It's almost like an unsung hero, you know? It doesn't blast out at you. It doesn't shout. This is the thing that I'm talking about, like, Sauvage is very loud and very obnoxious and very, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, right? And Bleu Noir is, I'm sat right here and we can talk, but if you want to get on with your own thing, that's fine. Because I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing, and everything's cool. Bleu Noir Parfum is that, you know, cool, well put together guy. You know, that guy that, like, you'll hang around with him. You'll hang around with, like, one of your friends, like, really chill and really relaxed, and you come away from that meeting and you go, oh man, like, I should probably be more relaxed. Why am I not more relaxed? And that's Bleu Noir Parfum. I don't know if it is bergamot or if it's like lemon or something, but there's just a nice little heightened it is blue. It's like completely like this blue opaque irisy sweet gel that's very nice and very pleasant, but then just like there's an outer layer of like white or yellow, and that's this literal citrus thing that's going on, and that's lovely. Then we come inevitably to this. This is Sauvage Parfum. This fragrance has made me think. You know, like, I'm 31 now. Not getting any younger. And as you get older, you obviously think about kids. You know, you think about children. You think about, if I was to have a daughter or even a son, or that'd be quite crazy. A mini version of, well, I'm pretty mini as it is. I guess that this makes me ultimately think of the lineage of men. As in, I had a dad, you had a dad, and he 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 had a dad, until like forever, right? Essentially. It makes me think, this fragrance legitimately makes me think of like the evolution of men, of the evolution of masculinity. Masculinity right now is like being questioned. It isn't even a real thing, and all these kind of crazy, new world, new era, questions that, in my personal opinion, is just overthinking the human condition to a huge degree. But this is, for me personally, because that's an interesting thing in itself, like, what's the definition of masculinity? But to me, this fragrance is the classical definition of masculinity. So it has our old friend Neroli, but it has woods and accompanying citruses to make this meaner, gristlier, but still as stylish, still as opulent, still as self-assured. and that is this fragrance. This is based on Eau Sauvage, which was popular in the 40s and the 50s. But and the 60s, if you went around the 60s and the 1960s, you would smell things like this, like everywhere. This was that take on Neroli. Neroli, with Neroli, wood Neroli is a simpler, kind of sweeter Neroli, but this is kick-ass Neroli. This is Neroli, as sharp as an axe, as cold as ice. And it's amazing. It like I said, it makes me think of my dad. It makes me think of, he didn't necessarily wear this, but it makes me think of men in my lineage, men in my ancestry, the fact that they lived and that they existed, and it's thanks to them I'm here. We had Remembrance Sunday recently here in the UK, where we wear poppies. We have a minute of silence, 2 minutes of silence at 11 o'clock on the Remembrance Sunday, and we think about all the people who have lived and died in the war, in World War II and World War One, to get to here, in our cushy AI, Deliveroo, Amazon instant gratification world. But this fragrance was not born in that world. This fragrance was born in a harder world, a world where men needed to be a lot sort of tougher, let's say, than they are now. It's a beautiful scent. It's a classic man scent, and if you want to, I feel as though it's every man's birthright to smell this fragrance at least once, because I think it's a calling card of the past. It's a calling card of masculinity and men's fragrances of time gone by, and it's essentially like you're wearing history. You're wearing a history lesson when you wear this. You're wearing, I don't know of any other art form where, like, you can listen to the Beatles, right? You can watch Lawrence of Arabia, but you're a spectator. You're a spectator in that sport. But with fragrance, you're wearing something from, you're participating in it. You're participating in that art. You're participating in the art of wearing this, and it becomes current. You make it current, even though it's a fragrance born from, the distant past. And that's what is mind-blowing to me about this fragrance. And I'm so thankful that I've been able to give myself this format to do it, because that's how I really feel about Eau Sauvage Parfum. It's not just like, oh, it's a nice smell. It's a great smell. It's a pleasant smell, but to me, it is a sort of a philosophy on it. And, when I was working on From Here to There, I wore this all the time. This was my signature scent. You can see, like, I've worn a tremendous amount of this because I felt as though I needed to become a man in that moment. I needed to take charge. I needed to take the reins of, that shoot and of the preparation and everything. And this was the fragrance that I used to tap into. It's like Assassin's Creed. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla recently. Quite boring. Lovely visuals, very beautiful visuals, but endlessly boring. But in Assassin's Creed, they have this technology called the Animus, and that means that you can essentially go into the past. You can tap into the Animus taps into your DNA, your genetic DNA, and you get to go back in time and live as your ancestors, one of your ancestors. And to me, Dior Sauvage Parfum is the closest thing I have to an Animus, because it's like, it's this ancestral connection to the past and masculinity of the past and men of the past. Ironically, the fragrance that does remind me of my dad the most is 1 Million, because he wore it back in the 2000s, even though it was absolutely not designed for him. He was in his 50s when he was wearing 1 Million. I loved 1 Million, even though it was a little bit over the top and not quite. It's not completely what I choose to wear. I think that 1 Million is actually underrated as a winter scent, like as a casual, like Christmassy, festive winter scent. And so when I smelt this, I genuinely felt as though 1 Million got a chance to grow up. It's kind of like the 1 Million Parfum to me is like Toy Story 3. So, in Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, Andy, the little kid, is a kid, and we were all kids at the time when watching it. And then in Toy Story 3, Andy's an adult. He's 18, he's going to college, all that kind of thing. And I felt like 1 Million Parfum was for people like me who grew up with 1 Million, and now we've become of age, and we're older, and we've got responsibilities, and for some people it's marriage, for some people it's kids, for some people it's a house, all that kind of thing, businesses. And so 1 Million Parfum to me was that. And I think it was Quentin Bish as well, wasn't it, that did this, and he's now doing everything. But it's got the fruity, grapefruit, sexy sweetness, but there's a real numbing effect of the hyper elements of it, the cinnamon, the leather. It's all dumbed down. And so some people saw that it was summer. Some people didn't like that, of course. That's quite a bad connotation, dumbing down. But I thought it smoothened it. I thought that it 1 Million was like the crazy, reckless teenager, starts fights, tries to sleep with anything that's got a pulse, drinks, all that kind of thing. And, as you get older, you retain some of those personality traits, but they have to be smoothened. Your personality almost has to form calluses, in a way, to go with everything that's going on around you. And I feel as though 1 Million Parfum was that, but I didn't feel as though it stripped away 1 Million. I mean, you could interpret it both ways. Some people interpret it as they've stripped away what's good from 1 Million. And, I'm not going to argue with that. I can see why people would think that. But for me, it was, 1 Million matured, 1 Million evolved, 1 Million progressed, 1 Million updated itself. And so, for people who wanted a straightforward version of 1 Million, or people who like Invictus, or that straightforward icing sugary thing that I've talked about in this video and in previous videos, if you wanted that with a good amount of grapefruit and a good amount of maturity, which will make you stand out but not in a over the top way, then I think that this works. I think it's a fun fragrance. I think it's a quietly confident fragrance. It's a sociable fragrance, definitely. But it's just not the life of the party anymore. It doesn't feel as though it has to be the life of the party anymore. It can just be a more relaxed and more in control version of itself. And that's my favourite thing about this fragrance. And that vanilla, spicy, the cinnamon's still in there, and especially when you wear it on the skin, it's warming, it's inviting, it's comfortable. 1 Million grew up, and I'm proud of it. We're upping the intensity, now going to sort of autumnal fragrances. It takes a lot for me to buy fragrances these days. It has been like that for a little while. I will buy fragrances if I really, really like them, and if I really, really want them to be part of what I already consider to be, a collection beyond my wildest dreams. And, I don't know how many fragrances I have now. I think it peaked at about 260, and then I was like, no, let's take that down. And yeah, so it takes a lot for me to buy fragrances, and especially to buy fragrances instantaneously of which I have kind of like first smelt them. But this was one of them. This is Ferragamo's Uomo. I feel as though I haven't spoken about this one for quite a while. And, you know, what does that remind me of now on the card? It reminds me of Varnatalen, that's what it reminds me of, which is a Estonian version of Bailey's, which exists. That's actually a real thing. Varnatalen. I gave Chris a bottle of Varnatalen for Christmas once. I think he liked it. But Varnatalen's like a chocolatey Bailey's with a bit of cardboard. But it's quite nice. I promise you, it's quite nice. So when you spray this, immediately you get a powdery chocolate treat. Apparently there's a note of tiramisu in here. My arse, right? Imagine a note of tiramisu. But that's what they were going for. They were going for an Italian version of tiramisu. Is there any other version of tiramisu? That is the question. But yeah, so coffee, cream, chocolate, that's the vibe. That's the vibe that they were going for with this. That's what they wanted. And they mostly delivered. The thing that got me was the chocolate and the cream, and there is a bit of like synthetic, Aaron Hughes will know this, it's probably something like Blackwood, or I don't think it's ISOE Super, but there's something dulling it. There's something that is woody. There is something that is making it powdery and not so photorealistic and not so real and more synthetic. But that's fine. That's fine. It's a very happy-go-lucky fragrance. It's a very pleasant fragrance. But there's just something about it that still interests me. There's something about it that I still really like. The sweetness is to the point almost where you could argue that it's going into like raisin territory, like a sweet kind of raisin chocolate thing. I don't get a hint of coffee in this. I sort of get where people are going, but not. It doesn't smell like coffee. I know what coffee smells like. I know what coffee fragrances smell like, especially, and maybe I've been spoilt by that, but it doesn't really smell like coffee or mocha or latte or anything like that. It smells like chocolate powdery cream with a woodsy, aromacochemical, synthetic stuff going on in there, but not to the point where it's unpleasant. Chocolatey, powdery, creamy thing, but just there's this tanginess that's keeping it so interesting. There's a tanginess, like I said, raisin, dates kind of like thing. There's just something in here that keeps it from being too simple, overly boring, vacuously uninteresting, and that's great. But I should wear this more. I should. Next one is this. This is Gucci Guilty Parfum. Not Le Parfum. That's very different. That's got balsamic vinegar or something in it. Wild. So, Gucci these days, they're on a roll, They did Le Parfum, which had the balsamic vinegar and everything like that, and spicy chili, I think, and now they've done Gucci Guilty Elixir, which has nothing to do with the Gucci Guilty line. It has more to do with white florals and vanilla and, Reflection Man by Amouage. That's an amazing fragrance. You're going to be hearing me talk a lot about Gucci Guilty Elixir, but this, it's almost as if they said, okay, before we go into this new era of Gucci, in which I think that Gucci will become contenders, I think they're trying to go I think they're trying to go for it. I think that Gucci are trying to go the experimental route. I think that they need a new line because they're locking in with the Gucci Guilty thing. They need to do something new. They need to make a brand new line. You know, it's a big step for fragrance companies because they're scared that it won't have like the recognizability of their current, you know, current fragrance brand, everything like that. I get that, but sometimes you just got to take a big leap. Do a brand new line, start from there, start from scratch, and I think that within 5 or 10 years they could be one of the biggest designers in the world if they keep this traction. But it's almost as if they went, okay, before we go into this new era, let's close the story on the original Gucci Guilty DNA. That's what it felt like they were doing with this, because Gucci Guilty in itself is people used to say that it was generic, and then Lex Ellis said to me, or he said on a video actually, he said, okay, Gucci Guilty is generic, the Gucci Guilty Men line is generic, but what other fragrances smell like them? And he had a point. Kind of stumped me. What Gucci Guilty, the line, smelt like was this woodsy, like bran flake, sweetened, dark, woodsy, chemically smell. And it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool. But I think that the thing that it was unique, I will give him that, but it was boring. You can be unique and you can be boring at the same time. Like Yves Saint Laurent, myself, in my mind, that's uniquely boring. Right? And Gucci Guilty was the same thing. You hadn't really smelt it before, especially the bran flaky, woodsy thing that was going on. That was really cool. But yeah, like, it smelled like mush. It smelled like nice cereal, woodsy, blah. Whatever. But this, it's almost as if they took that and went, well, let's perfect that smell before we do anything else. And it is. It's a perfected version of that. And I it's almost a guilty pleasure. Pardon the pun, right? It's like a guilty pleasure is Gucci Guilty Parfum. Because it's so straightforward and it's so basic and it's got this warming, bran flaky, sweetness, woodsy smell. Very pleasant, very non-offensive, very uninteresting. But yeah, I really like it. There's also this sweetened musk that's in here. This sweetened kind of like silvery tone at the top. That's really nice. I know it's like I don't know if it's metal or like a floral, like a white floral, but there's something clean at the top of this, on top of the bran flaky cereal woodsy smell that is really nice and just light, just brightens things up a little bit. It's great. So I like it, and I think that, if you're looking for a signature scent and you want something non-offensive, or you go to work, you go to office, you go to a place where, all right, fine, you can wear fragrances, but you shouldn't really, or, you don't want to make too much of a noise, wear this. But I genuinely just like this in itself. I think it's simple, it's straightforward, it's to the point. It's nothing interesting. It's nothing too interesting. It's nothing stand out. But sometimes, I was speaking to somebody in one of my consultations the other day, and we were talking about all this technical jargon, and he did just kind of look at me and say, "Isn't the point of this just to smell good?" Stopped me in my tracks when he said that. I was like, I guess, yeah. And if you want to smell good and simple, this is fine. I think it's the best rendition of the Guilty line. of the Guilty DNA, should I say. I mean, it's not the best of the line. For me, that's Elixir, but the best rendition of what they were doing back many, many years ago. I do feel as though this completes that arc of the Gucci story, and that's enough. And this one is a classic. This is Private Accord by Hugo Boss. Hugo Boss The Scent Private Accord. You know, we talked about with Uomo, with Ferragamo, this chocolate thing, but this is like, I'm a big fan of dark chocolate. Man. There is some syntheticness, and actually on the card here, I actually got like a swathe of chlorine, which is not good, but it's just because it's just so... It just does not work on the card, does this one. It's like a pale imitation of what it tries to be. In reality, what this is so I have one of these like healthy little meals that I have now is a banana, like cut banana, peanut butter, and then I'll melt some 70% chocolate, and I'll drip that on it. And the melted 70% or 85% dark chocolate is in this. I even did a gag about that with the Gordon Ramsay video that I did. I did a Gordon Ramsay video at the start of the year, and I made Hugo Boss The Scent. And you can see me pouring that. But yeah, this smells gourmet, is kind of what I'm saying. It smells like a gourmet treat. On top of a very generalized designery smell. So, it's so different. Oh my God. So, you get fruits like, because it's Monaco fruit, but I say there's blueberries, blackberries, but it's like a mush. It's like you've you know, like compressed all these berries down and then rolled them into a rolling pin, and you've squashed them. And then there is like there's something clean and soapy in here as well. Very woody, sweet, but the sweetness is really controlled, and that top chocolate, like bitter chocolate that's covering all this, really does a lot heavy lifting with this fragrance. So what you've got now is you've got the top bitter melted chocolate. Everything's kind of melted in a way. Everything's melted and compressed and compact, and so that comes across a bit like it doesn't come across fresh. You know, it doesn't come across like... Nothing comes across fresh. It feels more like a microwavable dessert, if that makes sense, than like a fresh dessert. Like it smells processed. It smells as though it's, you know, been through the ringer. And it's definitely a designer. It's definitely that designer fragrance. But it works. It just totally works, and it's very pleasant in what it does. And I've always liked that. It does well with compliments, and yeah, like there's just enough, like there's a lot going on, but I just really enjoy it, and I think it's really, really great. That Monaco fruit smells both very clean, and yet like you just get an assortment of berries and you clump them up and put it into the fragrance. So yeah, I've always liked it. I've always enjoyed it. I've always thought that it's handy. And it's a great casual fragrance to wear. It's also a little bit dusty. Yeah. A little bit dusty, a little bit wood shaving-y. That's not as prolific, that's not as prevalent as everything else, as the sweetness and the fruitiness, but there are different textures going on at play together to give this a complexity and to make it work. This is number 9. This is La Mal Elixir. I think that, you know, like, as you get into this hobby, you really start to resonate more with niche fragrances. You start to resonate less with designer fragrances, and you become more and more cynical about designer fragrances being released into the world, and none more so than Lamel fragrances. Lamel fragrances are, there have been so many bad ones, and there have been so many cash grabs and all that kind of stuff. And so when I started to hear that this was very, very good, not to be too cynical, but I almost thought at this point, like, that's impossible. That's not possible. There's no great Lamel fragrances anymore. I warmed up to Lamel Le Parfum in the end, but I don't reach for Lamel Le Parfum all the time. I have come round and said it's not awful, it's good, it's fine, but I felt as though Lamel Le Parfum was like, okay, this is how I felt about Lamel Le Parfum. There's an episode in the TV series The Simpsons called The Treehouse, and it's one of the Treehouse of Horror episodes. And it's where I think that Homer has a toaster or something, and every time he puts the toaster down, he gets to travel to an alternate reality. And there's an alternate reality, I think, when Ned Flanders rules the world, and there's a alternate reality where I think it's raining donuts, but he flees it before he sees that. But basically he's oh no, that's what it is. He's gone back in time. He's gone back in time to the dinosaurs, and he changes things, and then he comes back, and whoopsie-doo, right? He's changed the entirety of human history and whatever. I don't know how stepping on a butterfly or whatever can make it so that donuts start to rain from the sky, but it's The Simpsons. It is what it is. But anyway, the point is he gets to what he thinks is his final reality. Everything looks normal, everything's okay, and then he sits down, and then he realizes that all of his family have got lizard tongues or frog tongues that bite in, that stick to the food and get whatever. And his line to seeing that is,
close enough.
Close enough. And that's what Lamel Le Parfum ended up being for me. I was like, it's not perfect, but close enough. It's as close as we're ever going to get to, the best Lamel flanker that we can get it. But boy, was I wrong, and thank God I was. It's perfect. It's perfect. To me, it does not better Lamel, but it stands shoulder to shoulder from it. I know some people don't like Lamel, by the way, but I would actually say that to some people this could be even better than Lamel. There's this, I smelt this also in Guilty Elixir. This, caramel, shell. There's something in here that's like a caramel shell. It's a caramel shell with lavender and vanilla, but that lavender is so pronounced and so earthy and so beautifully done. People have been waiting for the ultimate Lamel flanker for years and years and years, for decades, literally. And, it's like we never thought we were going to get it. We just thought, well, we've got original Lamel and that's fine. And I'm happy with original Lamel any day of the week. But this is vibrant. The lavender goes hard. The vanilla is so succinct. It's fantastic. It's just fantastic. It is a amazing, amazing fragrance. It's uplifting. It's earthy and dark where it needs to be, but it's also joyous and sweet. It is one of the best interpretations of, taking, who would have thought that lavender goes so well with, this sweeter aesthetic? But together it is beautifully drawn, beautifully designed. I think that Mark Robe08, who was the biggest fan of Lamel of all time, was like, yeah, but it's not as good as composition as Lamel. And I'm sorry, I'm going to have to disagree with you there, mate. I think just take the W. Take the frickin' W with this fragrance. This to me is as good as the 1995 release of Lamel. Compositionally, technically, scent profile-wise, It's just oozing charisma. It's just oozing like power and coolness, you know? Like, the original Amal was cool, and not just because it had mint in it. You know, it was just a cool fragrance, and just the ping-ponging between the lavender and the caramel, chocolate, vanilla, lavender, caramel, chocolate, vanilla, it's just freaking ecstatic, you know? It's just... This is how you make fragrances, you know? This is how you do it. And when you smell this, you're like, oh, of course! It's easy, you know, it's simple to do. Like, why doesn't anybody just do this all the time? Man, it's beautiful. It's like a resonance field, just reverberating, you know, like, right? Sweetness, lavender, chocolate, lavender, caramel, lavender, vanilla, lavender. It's a beautiful tennis rally of notes and of vibes and of aesthetics. I freaking love this. I just think it's phenomenal. I think it's absolutely, like, well fucking done. You know, you guys did it, and I'm so proud. Gorgeous. Just go and check it out. You know, just go and check it out. You know something? I don't know how this video is going to do, but I've loved this video. I've loved doing this video. It's so simple, but yet it's so creatively rewarding. I could do videos like this every single day. You know, it's just so much fun. Couldn't do it with the same fragrances, obviously, because, you know, there's only so much I can say. But I would love to talk about different and new fragrances every single day, all the time. It'd be so cool. Yeah. Okay, so very quick cheeky plug of the consultation here. If you want to have a chat with me, like I'm having this chat with you now, but you can talk back to me. All of November is now gone. The Creed video is thanks to that. Thanks to everybody who signed up for the fragrance consultations because of the Creed video, the Absolute Aventus video. Absolute mad lads, thank you so much. But November is now sold out. I have 12 dates left in December, still at the $57 price for fragrance consultations. So if you want to come and chat with me, hey, we can do it. We can have a chat. And please understand, like, this is aimed at you. Like actually you who's watching this. Like, seriously, you. I'd love to chat with you. You know, if you've been hearing about the consultations and gone, you know, that's for other people. No, it's not. It's for you. Or I wouldn't talk about it, or I wouldn't put it up. It's literally for you, my dude, or my dudettes. I'd love to talk with you, and if you can do it, love to see you there. And then 2 or 3 days later, I send you a report of the things that we talked about, the taste that you probably have, and you know, some recommendations, and sometimes even some recommendations of fragrances and genres to maybe stay away from. But it's all good fun. But yeah, there's only 12 dates left in December, and then I probably won't be able to do the like one-on-one Zoom fragrance consultations until like summer, like May or June, because I've got a very busy winter and spring when it comes to a new film that I'm working on. So what can you do? But yes, so December is the last time that I'll be doing it for a little while. Not the end, but I'd love to see you there. But, you know, might as well take advantage of it now. Only 12 dates left of me doing fragrance consultations for a few months. This is Tom Ford's Noir Extreme Parfum. What a line, though, right? What an exquisite line in general. Noir I loved. It smelled like a graveyard, like a foggy graveyard. Just imagine an older man with a long white beard, just walking around this graveyard. I got tattoos. Tom Ford Noir Extreme didn't really work for me as well. Some people love that. Shout outs to you guys. Totally get it. But I felt as though it was missing a bit of an oomph. And then it's like they read my mind. I smelt this. The first time I smelt this actually was in Harvey Nichols when Chris, George Zaharoff and Ross were here. We were shooting. George Zaharoff paid for this video. And I think even Ross actually introduced this to me. Actually. He was like, man, you got to try this out. And I did. And I was like, fuck me. Wow. It's one of the best fragrances I've smelled this year. Like, probably right now, this would be my number one purchase of the year. Although that might change, because I am thinking of buying Gucci Guilty Elixir by the end of the year. It's just like, okay, so I've said that it smells like Christmas and horse poop. But let's really get into that. It's just, seriously, when I smell this, it's like it's hitting all the pleasure points in my nose. You've got, I think, Kulfi or something, which is like a dessert. But you get this blanched white vanilla. You get these incredible, fun little just spices just peppered around. And there is even a little bit of a peppery nature to it. But just spices, gently, majestically, like dignified, lightly put in. You got this Kulfi sweet dessert thing. So there's like a little bit of chocolate, but not too much. But it is like a dessert that you'd eat in Eastern Europe. Like a rich, like something I'd eat. Like I love Estonia, love Tallinn, Estonia, love going there. And whenever we go at Christmas time, around Christmas time. So I went 1 year. Then I was able to take my girlfriend and some of her family last year. And this is something you totally eat in Estonia, Tallinn, Estonia, or Eastern Europe. It's spicy, it's Christmassy, it's full-bodied. It's this grand, spicy, chocolatey thing. But there's something in here that I don't know if it's quite fecal, but there is a dankness, a dirtiness that completely adds to the experience. It does not overwhelm it. It doesn't take away from it. It's perfect. It's, again, festive, Christmassy, and so real. So genuinely real. So beautifully fulfilled. So amazing. A technical masterpiece in my mind. I love sort of every corner of this fragrance. I love every molecule, every aspect of it. It just comes together to be like truly art, an artistic painting. And it is. It's like a painting. And as I've said, like, it reminds me of a Victorian house that's about to celebrate Christmas. In fact, actually, you know, it reminds me of the story of there's a Doctor Who audio play called The Chimes of Midnight, and I think this is perfect. Actually, this is a perfect representation of what this smells like. So, don't know if you know Doctor Who or whatever, but the Doctor and his companion, this is the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann, with his companion Charlotte Pollard, they land in this Victorian house, and they can tell that Christmas is about to start. And it's obviously this very posh house, posh Victorian house. You've got the scullery maid, you've got the driver, and all of the aristocratic members of the house. They're upstairs. They're on the first floor. All of the maids and whatever, they're on the bottom floor, which is where the Doctor and his companion are. Anyway, the Doctor starts to realise that something's wrong, something's weird about this. Like, people can't quite remember like what people upstairs look like, and he's not allowed to go out the house, and like there's just some weird stuff. And then people start dying one by one, and they realize that there's this force upstairs that's this ghoulish sort of psychic force that's very dark and is taken over the narrative of this traditional sort of Christmas story, if you will, and is now bending it and, you know, murdering people and turning it into a sort of a horror. And at the end, it's very, very an intense story. But at the beginning, when it's just a mystery and things aren't quite right, there's something mysterious and sort of dark in the shadows. That's what this is. It's like a beautiful Christmas story and a wonderful Victorian Christmas house, and it's Christmas Eve and everything like that. But there's something foreboding, there's something unnerving in there, but it totally adds to the story rather than detracts to it. And that is what Noir Extreme is to me. A beautiful fragrance. There's some florals coming out now. Every corner of this is just oozing with vibrance and wonderful mystery and beautiful. One of the greatest fragrances that I've smelt this year. Right then, we made it through. Those were my top 10 fragrances for men. Quite different. I can already see that this is going to be a very long video. Maybe even my longest video, I don't know. But I wanted to do it. And I wanted to really just give to you my thoughts and feelings on these fragrances in the most apt way that I could. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you got a lot out of it. And if you did watch all the way through, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And if you want to see more of this stuff, tell me in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this, a long form fragrance top 10, tell me in the comments. Hit like and hit subscribe. Thanks so much. This has been quite the experience for both of us. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.